Many will argue that price is a major motivator for consumers when deciding to purchase a product. But my next guest respectfully disagrees.
Price can be trumped by convenience. Convenience becomes such an important factor that some people might be willing to pay 3, 4, 5 times more for the same item.
A discussion on how convenience is, in many ways, a more effective tool in creating customer loyalty on this episode of the CX Leader Podcast.
The CX Leader Podcast with Steve Walker is produced by Walker, a business consulting firm that helps our clients unlock the potential of their customer experiences by placing the customer at the heart of all their business decisions. You can find out more at walkerinfo.com.
Hello, I'm Steve Walker, Chairman and CEO of Walker Information, and also the host of the CX Leader Podcast, and thank you for listening. On the CX Leader Podcast, we explore topics and themes to help leaders like you leverage all the benefits of customer experience, help your customers and prospects want to do more business with you. For several episodes now, we've been taking time to meet the luminaries of customer experience, those expert rock stars in CX that help us keep focused on the customer. Today, I'm really honored and privileged to have another best-selling author and high-energy presenter that has worked with hundreds of clients on creating a customer experience culture. Shep Hyken is the author of many books on the topic, and his latest book is called The Convenience Revolution: How to Deliver a Customer Service Experience that Disrupts the Competition and Creates Fierce Loyalty. Shep, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, it is my honor and pleasure, and thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. A longtime fan of yours. I know you know a couple of my colleagues, but we obviously have had a mutual admiration society going on with you for some time now, and so it's great to be able to get you on the show.
Well, I don't think I've ever worked with a company who does what we do, who's been doing it as long as you have. Not necessarily you, but how about the legacy? You started in the 1930s?
Yeah, my grandmother did door-to-door surveys starting in 1939, and she was
unbelievable.
She was an entrepreneur and saw a business opportunity, and today that's morphed into what we call customer experience. But it's all about, trying to be a little more scientific and being more purposeful around what you're doing to take care of your customers, which I know is what you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I love that. I hope that 50, 60 years from now, somebody in my family wants to take over my business and keep it going the way yours has.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure and a real blessing for my family and I. For those of my listeners who aren't aware of you, which I can't believe there are many of those, but why don't you just give us a little bit of background and tell us about how you got into this and what brought you to this place?
Sure. Well, we can go all the way back to when I was 12 years old and I was doing birthday party magic shows. And after my first magic show, which was an after school, on a Wednesday afternoon, my mom picked me up. I was 12. She took me over to this house, dropped me off. An hour later, I came out with $16. I'd entertained about 20 little screaming 6-year-old kids. And when I came home, my mom said, "You need to go write a thank you note." My dad said, "You need to follow up in a week, thank them again on the phone, and then, to your grandmother's credit, ask them," it wasn't door to door, it was over the phone, "ask them, were you happy with the show? And get specific information. What tricks did they like the best?" And so that's a great idea. And so little did I know that my parents were teaching me how to say thank you to a customer, how to get feedback from a customer, and how to execute on the feedback. Because my dad said, when they tell you what tricks they like best, what tricks they don't talk about, get rid of them and replace them with more tricks that they'll talk about. So and I did that, and I ended up working in nightclubs through high school and college. I also had some other regular jobs, but graduated college, and I saw a couple of amazing motivational speakers, and I thought, with my entertainment background, I could probably do something like that. And I went to the bookstore, and I looked at the entire business book section, which was about 25 books way back then. Today, it's 25 racks of books. But back then, that was a limited choice. And I kept going to the books that seemed to resonate most with me, which were the customer service books. I remember Tom Peters' In Search of Excellence,
Yep.
Great book.
Yep.
The books like Service America, Ron Zemke, Carl Albrecht. These people were writing amazing books. And I went to those books. I said, this is everything I've ever done. And that's exactly how I got into speaking about customer service. And I started writing and researching, and here I am today, 35 plus years later going, you know what? And I look young. I know I look really, really young, but I've been doing it a long time and I love it.
What a great story. And now you are the author of some 6, 7 books?
Yeah, seven solo authored and a number of co-authored. And you mentioned the most recent one, The Convenience Revolution. I'm really excited about that one. If you ask me what my best book is, depending upon the client, I actually choose what book is best for them. But this book, nobody's really ever written about this as a true customer experience strategy. The closest thing is my friend Matt Dixon wrote The Effortless Experience. I don't know if you've had Matt on the show. He's an amazing guy. But that's the experience that happens when there's a problem. This is the experience that happens throughout your entire experience with a company. And not that his isn't right or wrong. His is phenomenal. Go get that book too. But this is a little bit different. And I did my research, and to my knowledge, nobody has used the concept of convenience as the main topic of a book.
So tell me a little bit about that. What is the convenience revolution? What
Sure.
are the big factors that are driving this?
Well, think about it. I guess about a year and a half ago, I had another book that came out called Be Amazing or Go Home. And the editor I was working with, as I was getting ready to turn it into the publisher, said, "Why do you always write about these companies?" And I thought, what do I love about them? Well, they're just really good. And I started looking at a pattern. I said, you know what I love? They're just easier to do business with. That's why I like them. And I thought, has anybody ever written a book about how to just be easy to do business with or convenient? And I researched it, and there you go. So I identified 6 areas of customer convenience. Very simple. You want to eliminate friction. And by the way, all 6 areas have reducing friction as part of it, but some companies make it their entire value proposition. And you've got technology, self-service, delivery, a subscription model. What am I leaving? The technology. Did I mention technology? And then finally, accessibility. So those 6 are drivers, and some companies do all 6. Some just do one. But sometimes the one is compelling enough to make somebody want to do business with. Think about the convenience store that you might stop by. It's on the way. It's probably on the right side of the street that you want to turn on.
Absolutely.
As opposed to having to cross traffic. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive than buying the same items at the grocery store, but it's easier to get in and get out. It's quick. It's on the way, and you're willing to spend a little extra money. And the convenience store, to me, is the beginning of the convenience revolution. And many people thought, well, when did the convenience store first become, invented? And this is a great little trivial story. Southland Corporation is 7-Eleven, and today they have 65,000 plus stores around the world. But it's funny, in my research, I found that Justinian the Great in the Byzantine Empire in 500 some odd AD made a declaration that there would be a store selling the necessities of life for the convenience of the citizens at every major crossing. Now, I don't know how close the crossings were, and I'm sure you're on chariots, not automobiles, but that was the first convenience store of all time, 500 some odd years AD. So it goes way back.
Yeah, and actually, having just stopped at a convenience store this morning on my way to work, you're taking me through that because I purposely thought about, because it was rush hour, how I could get in and out easily. And you're right, you can park right in front. It's not like you got a long walk and you don't have to wait to check out. It's awesome. So that's a great kind of analogy. How do we apply that now to the customer experience in, say, a more complex organization?
Sure. Well, the big question to ask, first of all, is how easy are you to do business with? And what type of business are you? Are you B2B? Are you B2C? Are you a government agency? Imagine government making it easy on their citizens. But in some cases, these agencies and departments are trying to do so. They recognize it's important to do it. So are you a utility? So once you decide, here's where I'm at, take a look at the companies in your industry that are recognized for great service. And there's definitely in every industry somebody that stands out. Why do they stand out? What are they doing? Now, I say there's a place to start, but then take a look at the best companies, period. So I'm going to ask you, this is not a trick question. And I'm going to bet 9 out of 10 people, if not 99% of the people, 99.9% of the people will give me the right answer. What's the most convenient store in the world to do business with?
Amazon, I guess.
Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. That is the correct answer. Thanks for playing the game.
Yeah. No, they've revolutionized it.
They really have. And if you think about what happened is they are in all 6 of the areas that I mentioned. Number one, they've reduced friction. And how have they done it? Everything they do is about making it easy on the customer. They're open 24/7. They give you control and make it self-service. Talk about technology. They excel in technology. They deliver subscription, Prime membership, or you can actually get into programs called Subscribe and Save, where items show up on a reoccurring basis on schedule all the time. And of course, access, I mentioned 24/7. But that's what Amazon did. They started out as a bookstore and they said, what can we do to make it easier for our customers? Number one, we'll have every book you can imagine, where brick and mortar stores couldn't really have every book, right? They can order almost every book. Number two, there's no hours. It's 24/7. It's a website. Number three, you don't have to come to the store. We'll just deliver it to you. And they did that. And they also did it at a reduced price. Now, some companies have to compete with price, but I believe price can be trumped by convenience. Convenience becomes such an important factor that some people might be willing to pay 3, 4, 5 times more for the same item because it's just more convenient. The example is a hotel room that has a mini bar and you've got a can of Coca-Cola for $5, or just down the hall, there's a vending machine literally 25 steps outside of your room that sells that same can of Coke for $1.25. 25% of the cost. And guess what? Every morning, hotel employees are stocking that mini bar with more cans of Coca-Cola simply because it's convenient. Now, that's not true for every item, but in some cases, people will pay more. So it helps eliminate, if not even completely make price irrelevant.
My guest this week on the podcast is Shep Hyken, a best-selling author, and also has a great new book out. You ought to check it out. It's called The Convenience Revolution: How to Deliver a Customer Service Experience That Disrupts the Competition and Creates Fierce Loyalty. Shep's just been helping us out, thinking about the convenience revolution and how it might impact your business. Where do you think things are going, Shep? What's the next generation of customer experience?
Wow. Well, I think technology is going to play a huge part of this. The key behind technology today and the very near-term future is to recognize the balance that needs to be struck between digital and human. We have clients calling us, hey, we're thinking about going into a more of an AI, a bot-driven, chatbot-driven response program for customer support. And I say, well, that's great, but as of today, and I can't see it changing much in the next year, perhaps 2 or 3 years down the road, it's not good enough to eliminate people, if it ever will be good enough. It probably won't be, but here's my take on it. Balance it out. Make sure there's a human fallback where all the customer has to do is click a button. They're immediately talking to a human, or the chatbot's smart enough to recognize that the customer is confused and will switch to a live agent. Or even better, let the customer talk to the live agent and let the live agent type in the right questions the right way to get the computer to give the agent back the best information to help that customer. And by the way, AI used that way is perhaps the most powerful way, because the artificial intelligence can also analyze who the customer is, compare that customer to hundreds, if not thousands of other customers. And there's a pretty good chance that AI machine can predict what the next question is going to be from the customer, what the next purchase is going to be. And this support agent can act as really a consultant, not just somebody answering questions and handling complaints.
That's really interesting. Do you have any examples of some call centers or support centers that are using that kind of a approach?
Yeah, I mean, there's companies starting to do that. Every year I get the privilege of going to IBM's big artificial intelligence conference, which is where I got my best information and get to see what's happening and what doesn't seem to be working. I'm amazed at the companies that get up and do their case studies and share what they're doing. And it was Jenny Rometty, or Rometty, I guess is how you say her name, who she's the CEO, and she said, AI, when you flip it around, becomes IA, the intelligent assistant. And the intelligent assistant supports the agent. That's one of the things that they preach to their customers. But it's absolutely amazing. Imagine this, not even in a call center environment, but imagine the possibilities, because I think it ties in. If I walk into a department store and there's a camera, the camera is able to recognize me, facial recognition, and I walk up to a salesperson, the salesperson has an earpiece, and the computer says, standing in front of you is Shep Hyken. The last time he was here, he bought this pair of shoes. That's the 9th pair of that branded shoe that he's bought. He doesn't have it in this color, at least not from us. Why don't you show him that? I mean, I'm probably giving you more words than necessary, but that's what the power of this whole AI and technology and digital platforms are going to give us today. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and from our standpoint, we're on sort of the predictive analytics side of that, and you're absolutely right that with some level of data integrations and some large sample sizes and data sets, you really can start to predict, not only behavior, but also what is preference and what might be a nice extension or add-on to that, whatever product or solution you're offering.
Yeah, it's uncanny, the ability that they can predict. It really is, with such accuracy. So, and they'll even say to tell the agent, this is the next question the customer is going to ask. I know what the customer is, because they know what's going to come out of this person's mouth, because it's based on thousands of other people asking the same question with the same problem.
Hey, Shep, we always try to give our listeners a little take-home value, and since we have the benefit of having you on the show this week, if I'm a customer experience pro out there and I'm trying to enhance my company's customer experience or my company's competitiveness, what do you think are the one or two things that the CX Pro really ought to be dialing in on today?
So I'm going to give you some old school, give you an example, and then back it up with something new, even though we talked a little bit about it. And that is, I think the most important thing a company can do, well, actually, there's a number: hire the right people, train the right people properly, create the right culture. But if you want to get operational and tactical, I think creating the right journey map, really going deep into the actual touch points that customer has. But once you get there, you want to analyze, I call this service creativity, every one of those touch points, and say, what can we do to make it better? And that's one great opportunity to say, you know what, here's different ways we can do it, and get lots of people involved so you get lots of different ideas. And then instead of not just making it better, what can you do to make it more convenient? And I'll give you a quick example. In the book, I talk about Uber. We all know Uber disrupted the taxi cab industries. I lived in the suburbs, and in order for me to get a taxi cab, I had to make a phone call. And then I had to wait for the cab to show up. Many times I had to call back and ask, where's my cab? I get in the car. The guy doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know where I'm going. I don't know how much it's going to be. I finally get there. I give the guy or gal their money, and I get out. And what Uber did is they took a look at all of those touch points that the customer dealt with. And they said, let's make it easier. They created an app. I don't have to make the phone call. I look at my phone. I can see how many cars are nearby or how far away they are. I type in where I'm going to go. 3 or 4 letters in, it auto-populates, because that's what the system does. It tells me how much it's going to be before I say okay. When I finally do say okay, it then tells me how far my driver is, and I could watch the driver driving toward me on the screen. And when the guy gets there and picks me up, or the gal, they know who I am. They know where I'm going. They don't have to ask. And when I get out, I don't have to pay with what's in my pocket. It's just automatically taken care of. The only part of the process they haven't figured out how to eliminate friction-wise is the actual drive. And until we start to beam people up like Star Trek, you're still going to have to get in the car and drive with somebody. But they looked at all these different touch points and eliminated friction. And we should be looking at our companies and all the touch points our customers have with us, and not just try to give them a better experience, a more friendly experience, but also a more convenient experience.
Well, that's a great take-home value point there, Shep. In fact, I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and we were talking about how much of company process is designed around the convenience of the company versus the convenience of the customer.
Right.
And, kind of the easy ones to pick on are like the airlines or doctor's offices. But, we got to challenge ourselves constantly. And your concept of, take the journey mapping technique, which is common, look at all those touch points, not just how you can make them better, but how can you make them more convenient? How can you eliminate the friction? And a lot of that's taken the customer's frame of mind. Hey, Shep, anything else you want to add? Anything that we didn't get in that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, at the end of the day, you asked me a question, the big takeaway. Operationally, I gave you an idea, but from the standpoint of something much more strategic and bigger than that, I just think the culture of a company is so important. It has to be decided upon. This is what we want to do. We want to create a customer experience that's great for customers and our employees for that matter. And we start with defining what our vision is for a customer experience. And then we hire the right people. We train them properly. We do everything right. But that culture is so important. And we can't forget that. What's happening on the inside of a business is going to be felt on the outside by its customers.
Yeah, one of my buddies loves to say, culture is a growth strategy.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Shep Hyken has been kind enough to join us here on the CX Leader podcast. You can check out Shep and his books. Just put him into any search engine. That's Hyken, shephyken.com. Check out his podcast and all of his materials. Thanks again, Shep, for being a great guest this week.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
And if you want to talk about anything we discussed or how Walker can help your business customer experience, you can contact me at steve.walker@walkerinformation.com or call me here in the U.S., 1-317-843-8890. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'd love to tell you more. Don't forget to subscribe to the CX Leader podcast. You can go to walkerinfo.com/podcasts, and you'll find links to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. And we also have our own YouTube channel now, youtube.com/walkerinformation. Thank you for listening to the CX Leader podcast, which is a production of Walker. We're a business consulting firm that can help you make customer experience your biggest competitive advantage. Find out more at walkerinfo.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again here next time.